Gentle White Moonlight vs. Ultimate Little Wolf Dog. In his past life, Su Wanqiu died at the hands of his lover. I no longer believe in men in this life. Unfortunately, I am deeply involved with two people. One is the richest man in Yuncheng, Anye, the eldest son of the Li family. It is the most unforgettable white moonlight of my life. Unfortunately, in a kidnapping case, I encountered the legal expert Mu Zhichao. Unfortunately, it was that night again, under the dizziness and brain heat, I destroyed the innocence of Mu Dashou. From then on, Mu Dashou began a difficult journey of pursuing his wife. Chasing a wife is not easy, Mu Zhichao sighed. Not only does the white moonlight block the path, but also the dead cinnabar mole adds difficulty to oneself. The white moonlight is not good anywhere, it's only good for Bian Huan. Mu Zhichao said, no, one must leave for me. White moonlight, male second in command, female strong. Keywords of the novel. Rebirth of the Heavenly Rebellion. Miss She is both beautiful and confident without pop-ups. Rebirth of the Heavenly Rebellion. Miss She is both beautiful and confident. Download the complete text. Rebirth of the Heavenly Rebellion. Miss She is both beautiful and confident. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Evil Women Like Wolves. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Evil Women Like Wolves. The capital of the northern Zhou dynasty was surrounded by beacon smoke. Wang. The city gate cannot be guarded anymore. I implore you to change into your servant's attire and break through. Qing Mei, with blood and tears, knelt down in front of the queen who had occupied half of the glory of the northern Zhou dynasty. Qing Mei, they are coming towards me. If I am not here, this city will only be slaughtered. She slowly took off her armor, revealing her beautiful and heart-stirring face. Not far from the enemy camp, the young master in a white robe and white horse gazed at the city tower. He paused for a moment when he saw this scene and slowly closed his eyes. The sound of fighting under the city tower gradually disappeared, and Su Wanqiu stiffly turned her neck and expressionlessly pulled out an arrow from her collarbone. Under the city, white horses and white clothes, old friends. Wan, surrender. As long as you surrender, I will go and plead with the national teacher. Then scrap my hands and feet and make them into human beings. Su Wanqiu interrupted him with a smile, and the man's handsome face had a slightly embarrassed blush. Wan. Did you sell the whereabouts of the Naiwan Wei to that woman? Su Wanqiu looked at the line on the horizon. The sunset was so beautiful that even her last hope was completely extinguished. The national teacher said that the Nihuang Guard is the source of chaos, so. The man hesitated and dared not answer, and Su Wanqiu laughed when he saw this scene. Countless men scoffed at it, but no one knew that the Qinhuang king had a stunning beauty, yet he became a bit cold. Even men who have followed her for many years have become accustomed to her slightly furrowed eyebrows, but have never seen her smile. Just this smile, it's really a heart-stopping panic. I have no regrets in my life, it's just the first time I feel regret today. Su Wanqiu looked at the man coldly, his blood-stained face like a sunset doll, making people shudder. I just hate that I shouldn't have saved you back then, throwing you on a winter night in the northern country. I only hate that I shouldn't have loved you back then. Even though I was born alone until old, I wouldn't have implicated tens of thousands of brothers. I just hate that I shouldn't have softened my heart for a moment and left you behind. Speaking of this, her sword pointed straight at the distant vale, and a beautiful shadow flickered faintly in between. Su Wanqiu, you stole my man. Today, on the day of the city's destruction, I will make countless people appreciate your body. Do you think so? The piercing hoarse voice, like a cold wind, made countless people shudder. How could a woman in her 20s have an elderly voice? As you please. Su Wanqiu responded casually, looking at the only 4 people beside her, with countless others staring at her from behind. Qinhuang Wang has never suffered a defeat in his life, only to lose to a man. Even if I die, I will never let you succeed. In the 68th year of the Northern Zhou dynasty, Queen Qinghuang died in a rebellion in the capital. He has over 100 knives in his body, making it difficult to distinguish between flesh and skin. No one collected his body. Many journalists and crowds gathered outside the court to watch the play. The most famous news in Yuncheng today is the arrival of the rising star Mu Zhichao in the legal industry. The lawsuit in court is not big or small, it is just an ordinary rogue case, with solid evidence and clear context. However, the victim's identity is quite unique, and it is rumored that she is the eldest lady of a certain family, while the lawyer is this mysterious Mu Zhichao. Mr. Mu, thank you this time. Outside the trial, a woman wearing sunglasses reached out to the man opposite her. However, Mu Zhichao only smiled and cleverly avoided her hand. Miss Zheng, finding a lawyer for today's case is enough, and I don't need to take action. Mu Zhichao wore a faint smile, and the enchanting face cleverly coexisted with a sense of youthfulness and maturity. Mr. Mu, we have known each other for so many years, why should we be so separated? Zheng Xian's pretty face flashed with a hint of melancholy. Despite having known him for many years and having a close family relationship, he remained indifferent to himself. Thinking of this, her hand clenched slightly. The man in front of her is her only chance. If we take him, we will have hope for our future prosperity and prosperity. Pop. A lightning bolt flashed outside, and Mu Zhichao frowned slightly. He always felt a bit uneasy today, but couldn't say what was wrong. Mr. Mu. The fragrance of jasmine lingered at the tip of her nose, and Mu Zhichao calmed down. However, she saw Zheng Xian getting closer to him at some point, so much so that the warmth of her chest could still be felt in her arms. Mr. Mu, drink some water. Zheng Xian smiled and handed over a bottle of water. Mu Zhichao raised her eyebrows slightly, unscrewed the bottle cap, and there was still an unopened damping sensation. A lot of words were said in court, and at this point, there was indeed some dryness in the mouth. But he didn't realize the eerie gaze of Zheng Xian after drinking water. The two of them walked towards the garage while chatting and laughing. Suddenly, Mu Zhichao felt that his eyes were starting to faint, and everything around him became blurry. Mr. Mu. He wanted to answer, but didn't say anything and suddenly fell down. Rain, it's still raining. A dimly lit room with something resembling a crystal coffin placed in the middle. In the middle lay a cold white woman, whose originally peaceful expression began to wrinkle. Suddenly, Wanqiu suddenly opened her eyes and the candle beside her began to flicker. Where? Wanqiu's pretty face was tinged with pain, and the feeling of drowsiness made her very uncomfortable. Her eyes scanned the surroundings, and memories began to slowly emerge. My king, haven't you died? Wanqiu's originally silent eyes suddenly lit up. She had thought she would die under the city tower, but at the moment of her death, she possessed the woman's body. Whether by chance or coincidence, this woman has the same name and surname as her. You're also a pitiful person. She closed her eyes and felt the unwillingness of this body. She was originally a carefree young lady. Just being despised and despised by countless people, and ultimately drowned in the hotel bathtub. Your revenge, I will avenge it for you. Wanqiu restrained her mind and jumped out of the coffin-like object. Just as I left the room, another thunderbolt struck and all the lights in the hotel went black. Wanqiu rolled her eyes and, taking advantage of the darkness, she also saved a lot of trouble. Otherwise, letting the hotel staff see that she is still alive would be another trouble. Comrade, it's right here. A rapid sound of footsteps came, and Wanqiu furrowed her brows slightly. She heard several heavy footsteps, as if they were accompanied by martial arts. Maybe there was a murder case at the hotel and the police were called. She took a step and then turned her head into a room. Just resurrected, I haven't figured out the rules of this world yet. It's better to do less than to do more. Leaning against the door panel, she listened to the footsteps gradually fading away, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly. Who? Su Wanqiu's soared eyebrows furrowed as she promised to hear faint breathing just now. The room is a standard presidential suite, with no one in the master bedroom or bathroom. Her footsteps stopped outside the study, and her breathing came from within. Bang! Mu Zhichao heard the commotion and opened his eyes, only to see a strange woman standing in front of him. TSK, who did you offend? Su Wanqiu saw clearly that there was a man inside, with both hands and feet tied to the bookshelf. A white cloth passed through Mu Zhichao's mouth, and the clothes on her upper body disappeared, revealing a seductive mermaid thread. The dim thunder poured out slightly, creating a perfect contrast with the shadows on the bookshelf. His arms are tied above his head, like a sinner judged by Jesus in Western painting. Tonight, there was heavy rain in Yuncheng, not even a ghost. Mu Zhichao could only vaguely see the graceful figure of the woman, as well as the cool floral fragrance emanating from her body. Your injuries are quite serious. Do you need any help? Su Wanqiu blinked her eyes. She was not a good person, and the man in front of her gave her a feeling of trouble. Aha! Mu Zhichao quickly nodded, and finally someone discovered him. If he were caught by that woman's person again, he would probably be innocent tonight. Su Wanqiu picked up the paper-cutting dagger from the desk and walked step by step towards Mu Zhichao. A piercing chill rose in the heart of Mu Zhichao. Especially this woman exuded a bone-marrow cold, which made him somewhat suspicious. Are you afraid of me? Su Wanqiu's red lips lifted slightly, and she was only a few centimeters away from Mu Zhichao. With a slight lift of her head, she could kiss the man's lips. Who are you? The cloth on Mu Zhichao's mouth was removed, and at this moment his face was unusually ugly. He didn't think it was a coincidence that the woman in front of him appeared here. You don't need to know my king's name. Su Wanqiu picked up a dagger and walked up his face, with an unclear smile on the corner of his mouth. Your figure is pretty good. Mu Zhichao's brain kept running, and before she could figure out the identity of the woman in front of her, she was fiercely pinched by Su Wanqiu. You. Mu Zhichao's face turned black in an instant. This woman was playing with fire. Little one, what should I do if I suddenly don't want to save you? Su Wanqiu blinked her big eyes. At that moment, she had a good idea. If she remembers correctly, she seems to have been engaged in this life. What do you want to do? Mu Zhichao instinctively sensed something was wrong, but as soon as his words fell, the woman immediately grabbed his neck and her red lips imprinted on his lips. I haven't seen a man for some years, my lord. Su Wanqiu's soft murmur rang out, and then the dagger in her hand lightly scratched, turning the fabric into fragments. You say, do you men still marry when they see their women having an affair outside? Mu Zhichao's face turned red, but she didn't expect to jump out of a trap and encounter another female thug. Suddenly, a fiery softness pressed tightly against his lips. Mu Zhichao widened his eyes. Did Su Wanqiu really dare to kiss him? Similarly, what caught his eye were a pair of phoenix eyes, with a hint of confusion in their eyes. Those eyes were so beautiful that before he could react, Su Wanqiu's hand had already untied his clothes. In a state of panic, he tightly guarded his clothes and innocence. However, Su Wanqiu remained calm at all and smiled brightly upon seeing this scene. Be good, be obedient. Spend the night with your sister, and she will surely take care of you comfortably. Mu Zhi blushed. I really don't know where this woman learned such seductive words. Before he could react, a fiery heat made him widen his eyes. Is he being forced by a woman? P.S. New book for readers to collect. If you have tickets, it would be even better. Meow. Asterisk asterisk, the new book is online. Presumably, previous readers have also forgotten about Xiaomeng. But it's okay, Xiaomeng is still waiting for everyone's return. Still seeking monthly tickets, collecting, and subscribing in the future. Daily stable for updates, special time periods for updates, female strong article. Welcome readers to take a look. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Kill It. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Kill It. On a flustered night, Mu Zhichao couldn't count how many times it had happened that night. However, the next morning, he supported his waist and slowed down for a long time before struggling to get up. He looked at himself in his glasses and saw that there were not many good places all over his body. The most prominent features are his abdominal muscles and sexy Adam's apple, with plenty of scratches on the mermaid line, as well as the prominent blue, green and strawberry marks on the Adam's apple. Crazy woman. Mu Zhichao gritted his teeth and angrily searched the room, but there was no one. Until I saw the bed, a blood stain in the messy bed was exceptionally prominent. Last night, it was their first time. Just as he thought of this, his face became even more ugly and tense. On the table, there was a quiet note that read, "Solve it by yourself early in the morning, I am tired." His face turned a little darker again. By the way, I love cleanliness. The man I sleep with is not allowed to touch anyone except me. Be a good boy, remember to protect your male character. Young master, Zheng Xian has been caught by us, you. I want her to be ruined. Mu Zhichao angrily smashed the hotel's phone, then picked up the phone and said fiercely, "All the videos near the hotel, please call them up for me." The culprit was sitting in front of the breakfast stall not far from the hotel, biting the fried bun and the straw of soybean milk. "It tastes like that." Su Wanqiu yawned and lazily revealed her devilish figure. "Little brother, do you like it?" She turned her head and cast a seductive glance at the young man beside her, without any concern for the feelings of the other person's girlfriend. "If you like to watch, go see it in her arms." The girl was so angry that she spilled soybean milk on the man's face. When passing Su Wanqiu, she gritted her teeth in anger. "Little sister hasn't slept all night. Why don't you sleep with her?" The girl's pretty face turned red when teased, especially Su Wanqiu, who had a face that was not inferior to that of a movie star. Her lips turned red, and she was dressed in a white pleated skirt. Her slender fingers seemed to tap into a person's heart at once. Perhaps she tossed and turned all night, and at this moment her voice was soft with a hint of laziness. "Kill both men and women." Watching the little couple blush as they were being teased by themselves, Su Wanqiu finally stood up and didn't forget to add one last sentence. "Little sister is willing to sleep with her sister, but little brother is fine. Add me VX. After a night of recollection, Su Wanqiu has come to understand the environment she is currently in. This is over 1,000 years later, it is already the 21st century AD. She, who initially wanted to seek revenge for herself, quickly let go of her desire for revenge. It has been over 1,000 years now, and the dog man and dog woman from the beginning have long been buried. She has nowhere to seek revenge. No, or rather, it's not impossible to find their tombs and learn from Mu Zhichao. Perhaps the heavens pitied her death, allowing her to be resurrected in over 1,000 years. Thank you very much for God's grace not to kill. I will definitely be a good person and strive for transformation. Standing in front of the Buddha statue, Su Wanqiu knelt and worshipped, devout and devout. Fortunately, she didn't commit too many sins in her past life, which gave her the opportunity to live in this life. Just as she left the temple, she suddenly remembered what happened last night and slowly headed to the pharmacy. "Boss, I'll have a set of silver needles and a pair of decoction." The pharmacy owner looked at her with thick beer glasses for a while, then took out a box of long-acting contraceptives. Su Wanqiu blinked, suspecting that this person would challenge her professional ability again. "I said, I want a pair of soup medicine." "Little girl, are you guaging?" Su Wanqiu choked on a never-ending sentence, "Guaging." She's afraid to scare him to death by saying it out loud. The pharmacy owner only treated her as an ignorant little girl, and the old god closed his eyes. If you come from the countryside, take good care of yourself and be careful not to be eaten by those men. When the time comes, you will have nowhere to cry. Ha! How dare you teach me a lesson? Sure, man, you caught my king's attention. Su Wanqiu extended her scallion white jade finger, and the boss was dazed for a moment before hearing her next words. If ginseng and white jade stones are placed together, their medicinal effects will clash, so you are not afraid to poison yourself. The acupoint map is all hanging incorrectly. Why? Afraid it won't kill people. No matter what kind of medicinal herbs are, they are all placed in wooden boxes. I really doubt if you will see a doctor. Su Wanqiu didn't show any mercy and said that the boss's face turned red. Miss is an insider in the industry. The boss saw her blurting out the properties of several medicines, and even the flaws on the acupoint map were clear to him. It seems that she is also a girl from some medical family. Yes or no? Su Wanqiu was too lazy to argue with him, she was clear about his petty details. The flaws in the store's decoration clearly indicate a desire to hide one's skills, fearing that someone might steal them. It is said that doctors are kind-hearted. Even if you are afraid of others taking your job, you cannot underestimate others. Su Wanqiu's voice became cold, and fan air of the Qinghuang king unconsciously took it out. The boss was also taken aback by what was said, and before he could react, he heard her lazily ask. Do you have Tianma in the store? Yes. What year do you want? Is it 50 years old? Su Wanqiu thought for a moment, it's hard to find Tianma that has been around for hundreds of years, but it should be quite easy to find Tianma that has been around for 50 years. 50 years. The boss hesitated for a moment, but there was one, it was someone who had booked it. That person, he can't afford to offend either, but the demeanor of the person in front of him, he can't afford to offend either. Is there any difficulty? Su Wanqiu's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, with a hint of killing intent in their eyes. No, I'll discuss with that person, but the market price of Gastrodia alata for 50 years. Su Wanqiu nodded slightly, naturally knowing the price of this medicinal herb. You say, how much is it? Not much, only around 500,000. Su Wanqiu choked up for a moment. She remembers that she only had a few thousand yuan, right? No, this kind of useless medicinal herb can cost so much money. At least I am also Miss Su from the Su family. Can you give me some help? Cough. The boss coughed lightly, clearly noticing this person's embarrassment. 5 days later, I'll come and collect the money in goods in full. Su Wanqiu glared at him in anger, picked up the silver needle and medicine on the desk, and walked out. The boss stared at her back thoughtfully, then revealed an inscrutable smile. He walked into the darkroom, picked up a dusty phone, and sent a message. 3 guests asked Ma, did the host check? It took a long time for that phone to receive a message. Check. If there is a problem, kill it. This young lady is really frustrated. Su Wanqiu checked her personal account and couldn't help but feel dizzy. The Su family is also a prestigious family in Yuncheng. How could they exploit the pocket money of their younger generation so much? What does it mean to reminisce about bitterness and sweetness? Don't you know that raising children in poverty and raising daughters in wealth? Su Wanqiu was momentarily frustrated and kept muttering incessantly on the way back to the dormitory. If it weren't for what Mr. Su said, I would have let the young lady know that a piece of rice is not easy to come by. That's why someone is withholding her pocket money, otherwise how could she live like this? How can I live my life in the future when I can't even afford an ordinary medicinal herb? Forget it, luckily there are other crafts, just fake them. She took out her phone and found a news article that read. The works of the Millennium Queen are flowing out, and the auction of legendary paintings starts with 1 billion yuan. TSK, I didn't expect that even casual paintings could sell for so much money. It's great to make your own fake. Su Wanqiu's eyes were curved with a smile, at least she was also the true champion of the Qinhuang king. Draw a picture casually, won't the money come? Just thinking back then, she was also proud and never bent over for 5 bushels of rice. Oh, time flies. Su Wanqiu sighed and said, let's live well first, and then talk about dignity. Unconsciously, she walked downstairs and was about to go back to catch up on her sleep. Suddenly, a black shadow rushed out. She didn't react for a moment and was splashed with red paint. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Hearts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Hearts. Yo, isn't this Miss Su from our Su family? I'm really sorry, my paint has expired and I'm about to dispose of it. I didn't expect you to bump into me so inconspicuously. Ling Zhinzhin hugged her chest with both arms and looked provocative. She and Su Wanqiu are both famous flowers in the art department of a university, but both her mentor and students prefer Su Wanqiu. So every time Ling Zhin really deliberately causes trouble for Su Wanqiu, just to see how embarrassed she looks. Su Wanqiu was blinded by paint, she wiped her eyes and glanced at Ling Zhinzhin. If it were in the past, she would just turn around and leave as if nothing had happened. But that's the old art style, not her style. Pop. A crisp and loud slap rang out, directly causing Ling Zhinzhin's right face to swell. You. Ling Zhin couldn't believe that Su Wanqiu dared to hit her, even the onlookers were stunned. It's okay, I accidentally hit you in the face when I reached out to wipe my face. Su Wanqiu's eerie voice sounded, but unfortunately, coupled with her soft and weak voice, there was an indescribable sense of disconnection. Before everyone could react, another slap rang out, followed by 4 consecutive slaps. Ling Zhen was completely bewildered by the slap, and Su Wanqiu finally gave up. Unfortunately, I bought this dress for over 100,000 yuan. Sister Zhen, you will compensate me, right? Su Wanqiu looked pitiful and extremely pitiful. If it weren't for the 4 slaps earlier, everyone would have thought it was all Ling Zhen's real fault. Su Wanqiu. Ling Zhinzhin got up from the ground, and her original floral image was completely destroyed, leaving only ferocity and resentment. She pounced straight at Su Wanqiu, but she didn't react at all. Instead, she smiled. Yes, there was a hint of mockery on the corner of my mouth. Su Wanqiu shook her body and deftly dodged her attack. In just an instant, she grabbed her pulse with one hand. Then, apply force. Ling Zhinzhin felt that her hands were about to be worn out and screamed in pain. However, Su Wanqiu was unusually devoid of any compassion and instead coldly watched the scene. Then, apply more force with your hands. Just a little bit, her hand is about to be scrapped by Su Wanqiu. Wanqiu, let go. A warm and gentle male voice rang out, and Su Wanqiu quickly let go, allowing Ling Zhinzhin to faint on the ground like this. As soon as he turned around, he put on a look of grievance and twisted his fingers nervously. Like a little girl who has been wronged. Teacher Li. The person who can make Su Wanqiu behave like this is naturally Anye. Su Wanqiu only glanced at him and his mind was filled with his smiling face. She remembers a sentence from my diary. Teacher Li is the most brilliant light in my life. I must have loved him so much that when she first saw him, she felt an inexplicable sense of closeness. Are you okay? I have clothes in my dormitory, let's go change them first. Anye frowned without a trace when he saw her blushing all over. This girl has been spoiled since she was young, and she never expected to be bullied at school. Teacher Li, Su Wanqiu's eyes were slightly red, and she wanted to share her great grievances with him. However, Ling Zhinzhin interrupted her words on the side. Teacher. Su Wanqiu hit someone. She's going to cripple my hand. Anye walked forward with a chill on his face to explore her hand, and couldn't help but frown. Ling Zhinzhin is right. If he comes later, she is afraid that her hands will be useless. But was this really done by Su Wanqiu? Teacher Li. Anye suddenly smelled a refreshing fragrance, and a small hand slipped into his hand. My little hands are red with a hint of purple on them. Teacher, this dress was left for me by my mother, Before she could finish speaking, the girl threw herself into Anye's arms. Wanqiu felt that the man's body had gradually become tense from being soft. Looking at his face again, it was already covered in anger. Ling, I understand Bianqiu. If it weren't for you causing trouble first, she wouldn't have taken action. We'll be here in advance for today. If there's another time, don't stay here. Anye, who had always been gentle, resolutely stood beside Wanqiu this time. Everyone was confused, even Ling Zhinzhin was also confused. However, Anye paid no attention to her thoughts and instead picked up the girl in his arms. Just as he was about to leave, he paused in a calm tone. Someone will take you to the hospital, and I will cover the cost, but I hope this is the last time. Ling Zhinzhin held on to her pig liver red face and clenched her hands into fists. It's Wanqiu again. Let's forget about grabbing my man. Do we even want to grab Teacher Li now? You wait. I will never let you go. In the bathroom, Wanqiu was washing away the paint. Anye is not in the dormitory, so she should have prepared clothes for her. She still remembers Anye, who was once the beloved person of the owner. At the moment she saw Anye today, she immediately thought of this method to test him. It has to be said that the girl had a much better eye for men before. This man is very interesting. Wanqiu, the clothes are ready for you. I will find a way to clean the pleated skirt. Okay. Wanqiu pretended to be timid and responded, only when Anye walked out of the dormitory did she change clothes. As soon as she looked up, she saw herself in the mirror. She flicked her hair, it was very smelly. If Qin Mei were here, she would definitely say that the queen is the most beautiful woman in the world. At this thought, the corner of her mouth twitched slightly. When given the opportunity, she will definitely find that ancient battlefield and pay her respects in her past life. Teacher Li. Anye was pondering something, and the faint fragrance of the girl's body echoed again in his nose. He looked at the girl with a hint of exploration in his eyes, as if he was verifying something. Wanqiu carried her hand behind her, and in her memory, the protagonist was a delicate little girl. Although it will definitely change in the future, she doesn't want to change too quickly. At least in Anye's eyes, she still wants to preserve her image in his mind. Wanqiu, have you been learning self-defense recently? For a long time, Anye finally spoke up. Wanqiu blinked his eyes and then said softly, you hit too hard today, not like you. Wanqiu pursed her lips and said in an unnatural perfunctory, I've been learning self-defense recently, maybe my hands are a bit heavy. That is, can it not be heavy? Back in the day, she was also the Qinhuang king who outnumbered all the heroes. If it weren't for feeling too cheap, Ling Zhinzhin would have taken her hand off in an instant earlier. It's great, that way I can rest assured. Anye, with a gentle smile, gently caressed her head. But she dodged it. Subconsciously, she realized that in the Lord's mind, Anye was the person she loved, not the elder. In the future, wherever there is no one around, just call me third uncle. Wanqiu was stunned for a second, then gently shook her head. Don't like it. Anye was taken aback, and Wanqiu was momentarily speechless, unsure of what to say. She was not good at dealing with men and women, and although he was indeed her elder, their families had no relationship, and he was only 7 years older than herself. Teachers and students, this word made her feel a slight pain in her heart, thinking that person back then was also her disciple. You can call me whatever you like. I promised your mother to take care of you. Anye only doted on her, and when he thought of her mother, he let out a soft snort. But you have learned to lie. The clothes my sister left you were not the same one. Why do you say that? Because I missed my mom. Su Wanqiu twisted her hands for a long time before saying the answer. Anye looked at the girl in front of him, and after all, she was just a little girl. Especially her father and stepmother thinking of this, Anye's gaze was like a knife. If it weren't for their concern for the friendship between the two families, he would have taken Su Wanqiu away from the Su family long ago. Teacher. Su Wanqiu saw him in a daze, his handsome face outlining perfect lines. Especially his Adam's apple, and his tight muscles all over his body. Well, my master really has a good eye, this man is quite tasteful. It's okay, you go back first. Don't forget to go back to the Su family tomorrow. Anye regained his senses and smiled slightly. Su Wanqiu raised her eyebrows slightly, remembering that the Su family seemed unfriendly to her. With me around, no one dares to bully you. Anye seemed to feel her fear and comforted her. Su Wanqiu nodded slightly, then turned around and left this floor. Anye looked at her delicate appearance, and his smile at the corner of his mouth became even stronger. Suddenly, the young girl's fragrance had not dissipated when her little head suddenly popped out. Teacher Li, can I be your girlfriend tomorrow? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Miss Su, let's talk about compensation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Miss Su, let's talk about compensation. A gentle breeze blew by, and Su Wanqiu's lips carried a hint of a smile. She also doesn't know why she said this sentence. Maybe it's because the influence of the protagonist is too deep. It could also be that she wants to start a new chapter in her life. Tomorrow, Wan will also come back. Anye's face showed a hint of apology, but Su Wanqiu heard this and left without looking back. It was she who lost her sense of propriety and forgot about Teacher Li's fiancée Ae, her aunt Su Wan. Wanqiu, the matter of Qiming. She walked downstairs and Anye's gentle voice rang out again. Su Wanqiu only then remembered that she was also someone who had an engagement. My future husband is Anye's nephew, Li Qiming. Teacher Li, you want me to marry him, right? Su Wanqiu stared at him, as if waiting for him to say the answer of rejection. The door of the Li family is always open to you. The corner of the man's mouth still had that gentle smile, just a bit hurtful. Su Wanqiu's pretty face brushed down, how hurtful and familiar this sentence was. Men are always fickle. I've thought too much. Goodbye, uncle. Throughout the day, Su Wanqiu rarely picked up a paintbrush without making any movements. She understands that starting with chaos and ending with abandonment, color decay and love relaxation, are the true nature of men. But after all, the main influence was too profound, let alone Anye being different from others to her. There are only 3 people in this world who are good to our Lord. My mother has passed away, and my grandfather has been away for years. Only Anye has been protecting our Lord. Since that rainy night, when Anye took her out of the Su family alone. My Lord has already secretly promised that he will not marry in this life. Just a man, as for being so unforgettable. Su Wanqiu was feeling frustrated and crumpled the rice paper in front of her before throwing it into the trash can. I'm telling you, I'm the one living now. What I want to do is my responsibility, you're not allowed to participate. Su Wanqiu threatened herself in the mirror. In the end, it was the protagonist's memory that was too profound, to the extent that she lost a lot of memories from her past life. Perhaps this is the price of reviving one's life. After drawing all morning without any inspiration, Su Wanqiu decided to start looking for the evening dress. After searching for a long time, not to mention suitable clothing, even everyday clothing is rare. She crossed her waist and looked at the crowded wardrobe, couldn't help but sigh. How about calling to inform you that you won't be going tonight? Before she could make a phone call, Anye had someone bring the dress and also invited a makeup artist to come along. Looking at the scene before her, Su Wanqiu could only sigh. It seems that Anye is determined to let her participate, or let her see what medicine Anye sells in his gourd. The Su family is considered one of the 4 major families in Yuncheng. Even though Mr. Su has been recuperating abroad in recent years and his family's strength has declined significantly, the skinny camel is still bigger than the horse. So many people want to take this opportunity to curry favor with the Su family. Su Wanqiu stood in front of the villa door, stopping for a long time without wanting to enter. She was naturally cold and thin. If it weren't for the owner's concern for Mr. Su, she would have pulled the Su family out and lit a sky lamp long ago. At the moment, Anye is not here, and even entering the Su family has dampened my mood. Why not go in first? A Rolls-Royce parked on the roadside, the window pulled down, revealing Anye's face. I don't like making noise. Su Wanqiu gave herself a reason: she really didn't like the atmosphere of the banquet. Anye gave her a deep glance, her purple off-the-shoulder long dress accentuating her exceptionally white and tender complexion. Even without any extra jewelry decorations, it still doesn't affect her becoming the protagonist of the banquet. Seeing this outfit, he suddenly regretted letting her come. It's nothing else, it's just that she doesn't like to be noticed. If you don't want to see the Su family later, just stand in a corner and I will do it as soon as possible. Anye's words were unclear, and Su Wanqiu was too lazy to ask further. As soon as he entered the door, he found a corner. Anye originally wanted to take her to meet some guests, but as soon as he turned around, she disappeared and he had no choice but to smile. This girl, after all, was spoiled by herself. Just this kind of temperament, how can it compete with the Su family? Across the spring in several dining tables, no one would notice her sitting here. At this moment, she had no expectation that a pair of eyes would fall on her as soon as she entered. "Excuse me, is there anyone here?" Su Wanqiu was playing with her fingers bored when suddenly a man stood behind her with a glass of wine. It has to be said that this is the most beautiful man she has ever seen. A comic-like face, with a childish and mature vibe coexisting. The hair is well groomed and spotless, and the skin is pale with a hint of wheat. What impressed her the most was his eyes, which for some reason had a hint of depth. Thin lips pursed slightly, with a hint of luxury in every gesture and gesture. "No." Su Wanqiu withdrew her gaze and lazily responded. The man sat down without hesitation and introduced himself. "Mu Zhichao, a lawyer." Su Wanqiu. "Miss Su loves to be quiet. I see many people at banquets with a purpose in mind, but Miss Su can sit here alone." Mu Zhichao looked at Su Wanqiu, and if he hadn't confirmed that only she had left his room the night before yesterday, he couldn't believe that the rude woman was the girl in front of him. Mr. Mu is the same. Su Wanqiu only felt bored. After thinking for a moment, she didn't feel any connection between herself and this man. It's also her fault for not taking that night to heart. After all, for her, Mu Zhichao was just a tool. A tool she uses to evade engagement in the future. Just Mu Zhichao kept staring at her, her gaze too glaring. "Miss Su, have we met somewhere before?" Mu Zhichao decided to show his hand, and upon hearing these words, Su Wanqiu narrowed her eyes slightly. "I'm very familiar with you." "Even if you're familiar, you're not." One sentence actually choked Mu Zhichao, and he was also right. Apart from that night, they really didn't have much interaction. "That's it, don't come to me if you're not familiar." Su Wanqiu is still aloof, and she is not the owner. People she doesn't know are willing to respond with a few words. "Miss Su, do you still remember this?" Suddenly, a cold finger pressed against Su Wanqiu's face. Su Wanqiu's face turned cold, and she immediately reached out her hand to prepare to waste the finger. But in the end, he threw himself into the air. Mu Zhichao had a clear expression in his eyes, and upon seeing this scene, he could be certain that that night was the woman in front of him. "Miss Su is so forgetful." Mu Zhichao smiled slightly and slowly unbuttoned the collar, revealing the Adam's apple still adorned with various colors. Because of this matter, Mu Zhichao has been ridiculed countless times by Lin Jinan. He was rescued by a woman in the middle of the night, and then the woman took the initiative to push him down, leaving behind a pile of marks. In Lin Jinan's words, no one believed this story when it was told. Su Wanqiu naturally noticed those traces and then was relieved to realize that this was the man of that night. I don't know how Miss Su's wine tastes. Did she also drink wine that night? The playful expression in Mu Zhichao's eyes became increasingly intense, and with just one sentence, Su Wanqiu couldn't sit still. Excuse me. Before Mu Zhichao could speak, Su Wanqiu immediately ran towards the direction of the toilet. She's an old sea king, if she doesn't admit it, then she's not admitting it. Tonight, the night is too beautiful and the wind is gentle. She's just anxious inside. He's not at a disadvantage with this face. As for being so stingy. Looking at herself in the mirror, Su Wanqiu was puzzled. She didn't ask for mental damages from a man, that's good. Is this man still rushing to find her? Is it difficult for him to have any special hobbies? Thinking of this, Su Wanqiu shuddered, feeling more and more like this. Otherwise, why did he stare at her with that infatuated gaze just now? Mu Zhichao os. If it were you, you would do the same. As soon as she left the bathroom door, she felt a cold gaze. Without thinking, she knows who it is. I thought Miss Su would crawl out of the window and play human disappearance. Mu Zhichao leaned against the wall, and Su Wanqiu looked at him, with a slightly pale face. If your sister is not satisfied, I can go and explain to her. Su Wanqiu spoke seriously, and Mu Zhichao's face was covered in black lines, not understanding her brain circuits. I can say that it was me who started by looking at you and accidentally slept with you. She won't be difficult for you. Su Wanqiu flicked her hair and smiled generously. No, sister, just spend the night with your kind-hearted older sister. Absolutely make her comfortable, forget about you dog man. Ha! Mu Zhichao snorted and suddenly pushed her to the wall, pulling open the cover around her neck with one hand. Miss Su, in a sense, all of my injuries are thanks to you. To take a step back, you intruded into my room and violated my privacy rights. Now, let's talk about the compensation for the mental and physical injuries I have suffered. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Who cannot be used to. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Who cannot be used to. Mr. Mu is really interesting. Su Wanqiu pursed her red lips, her skin tone was already slightly white. The previous push from Mu Zhichao had already caused a slight blush to appear on her neck. Mind your eyes. Just as Mu Zhichao was about to reach out and gently stroke, Su Wanqiu tightly grasped her wrist. Su Wanqiu reached out her jade finger and touched the red glow on her neck, her usually obedient face now carrying an inexplicable mystery. I have never liked clingy men. Do you know that men like you are very annoying? Su Wanqiu tugged at his tie, so strong that even Mu Zhichao felt surprised. This woman is completely different from the intelligence. Miss Su, are you not pretending? Their faces were extremely close, and looking at their cherry-like red lips, Mu Zhichao remembered that night. Unexpectedly, a cluster of evil flames attacked inexplicably. Man, do you think I need to sue you for harassing me? Su Wanqiu wore a shallow smile, looking harmless to humans and animals. Mu Zhichao gave her a deep glance and said, if Miss Su is willing to let go, I think this matter can be discussed. That's natural. Since Mr. Mu is willing to share the past grievances, I am naturally willing. Su Wanqiu deftly escaped his range and kept a safe distance from him. Mu Zhichao glanced slightly, and there was a shallow finger mark on her right wrist. He had no doubt that if he didn't let go just now, this woman would not hesitate to waste his hand. It is said that Miss Su is an incompetent rascal, but today it seems to be a false rumor. I don't care what others think. Su Wanqiu slightly tidied up her broken hair beside her ear and gave him a meaningful look. As a lawyer, Mr. Mu's skills are indeed extraordinary. From the moment she controlled her hands just now, she felt a very dangerous smell. If Mu Zhichao had not left her hand before, she couldn't guarantee that she would be able to escape his control in a short period of time. This modern person is indeed quite interesting, and Su Wanqiu's heart warmed at the thought of it. Mu Zhichao shrugged his shoulders without hesitation and took out a business card. Miss Su, don't think this matter will come to an end. I think we still have a chance to meet. Afterwards, Mu Zhichao also investigated and Su Wanqiu did save him once, but it was different from what she did to herself afterwards. I saved him, but at the same time, I didn't hesitate to ruin my reputation and entangle with him. The style of the Miss Su family makes him a bit confused. Su Wanqiu didn't refuse either. She hates trouble, but it doesn't mean she's afraid of trouble. She turned around and was about to leave when she suddenly thought of something and stopped. Oh, by the way, I left some videos that night. I believe Mr. Mu also cares about his reputation. Ah, man, if you dare to be rough with me, I will also make you unhappy. Glancing at Mu Zhichao's ugly face, Su Wanqiu left this place like a rabbit, not giving him a chance to get angry. Interestingly, what are you trying to figure out? Mu Zhichao squinted her eyes slightly. If it were someone sent from the capital at this thought, his face changed slightly and he walked out. The banquet has not started yet, but almost all the guests have arrived. Su Wanqiu still sat in that inconspicuous position, and Mu Zhichao paused for a moment before sitting directly next to her. Su Wanqiu frowned slightly, resisting being so close to the man. Especially this man makes her a bit confused about depth, such a man is too dangerous. Yo, isn't this big sister? Why are you sitting here? Do you feel embarrassed to go in? Before she could speak, an annoying male voice came through. Su Wanqiu tilted her face slightly and watched as a playboy approached with two unknown female celebrities in her arms. Su Chen, the half-brother of the protagonist. In my memory, Su Chen has been hostile towards her since childhood. Originally, the inheritance rights of the Su family should have fallen on him, the only son, but unfortunately, Old Master Su has always treated Su Wanqiu with great respect. In addition, although the previous owner had some skills, he was indeed unable to improve in business. This allowed the stepmother and son to stir up trouble in the Su family, and even Mr. Su began to give up on her. Steward Liu, is our Su family about to go bankrupt? Even hiring an underachieving 18th-rate painter. Su Chen shouted with a big grin, and Su Wanqiu, who had no one to pay attention to before, finally entered the view of the guests. Isn't this Miss Su from the Su family? Didn't she hear that she was kicked out of the Su family? I'm afraid not, but Mr. Su doesn't know what he thinks. Why did he just take a liking to this useless young lady? Stop talking, that's not just looking at her dying mother. Su Chen also heard the discussions of the people around him, and the corners of his mouth slightly lifted. I didn't expect Su Wanqiu to be so shameless. I didn't want to talk to her, she insisted on hitting the gun. Sister, I think we should take advantage of today's opportunity and tell you to leave the Su family. Maybe we can still. Pop. Before he could finish speaking, he heard a loud slap in the face. Mu Zhichao lifted the corner of her mouth slightly and glanced at the elegant man in the distance. Now the world has really changed, even the son born to my mother can bounce around in front of me. Look at your pale face, is it because you have used too much kidney? Do you need me to spend money on treating your illness? Division line. I signed the contract today, but as I approached the evening, I suddenly felt empty-hearted. What did I feel was missing? Author. The collection and tickets for readers are missing. Dear readers, please have a pity on Xiaomeng. Let's collect tickets. P.S. New book for readers to collect. If you have tickets, it would be even better. Meow. ****, end of this chapter. Chapter 6. Long time no see. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 6 Long Time No See. Su Chen's brain was completely blank after being hit, and it took him a while to recover. His eyes were filled with disbelief. How dare Su Wanqiu hit him? Su Wanqiu. The anger in his heart made him furious, but before his hand could approach Su Wanqiu, he was thrown over the shoulder with one of her hands. Su Chen was suddenly knocked unconscious. Is this still the Su Wanqiu he knew who couldn't fight back or scold back? However, all of this was not over, and Su Wanqiu's eyes were filled with coldness. She threw Su Chen over the shoulder like a doll with her backhand. As she flew in the air, a hint of malice flashed in her eyes. Click. I don't know where the sound came from, but Su Chen was thrown to the ground and fainted, unaware of whether he was alive or dead. Even his hands were limp, as if they were broken. Ah! Chener! The woman's screams rang out, and a middle-aged woman dressed in high white rushed over. Su Wanqiu. You can even take action on your younger brother. The person who came is Su Chen's mother and our stepmother Qinjingjing. Su Wanqiu remembers that since Mr. Su went abroad for treatment, Qinjingjing took the opportunity to cut off the owner's living expenses. So much so that as a Miss Su from the Su family, she still needs to work and study hard all day to make ends meet. But all of this, my lord endured it and didn't even tell Anye. What's going on? Originally a dinner party, it ended up like this. Su Ziqi's face naturally turned pale, especially as he watched his beloved youngest son lying on the ground with an uncertain life or death. The anger in his eyes was unbearable. Master, you have to make decisions for Chener. Su Wanqiu, this despicable person, hits his younger brother as soon as he comes back. My poor Chener. After just a few words, Qinjingjing's tears fell. Su Wanqiu couldn't help but want to give her a round of applause. Her acting skills were simply too bad not to be a queen. Wanqiu, what do you have to say? In front of everyone, even if Su Ziqi had a huge anger, he couldn't ignore her explanation. There's nothing to say. Su Wanqiu rubbed her hand, and even if it was a lifetime of hard work, her personality that didn't like to explain didn't change a bit. Besides, she's not a fool, she couldn't have missed the anger in Su Ziqi's eyes. Even if she explains, will her father who is biased towards grandma's house listen to her? So you admit that it was you who called Chener. Coincidentally, Su Ziqi doesn't want to listen to her either. He has had enough of this daughter. If it weren't for the old man still alive, he would have sent Su Wanqiu out of the Su family long ago. Steward Lu. Take the young lady down and kneel in front of her mother's altar. When will you know you're wrong and get up? Su Ziqi was deeply concerned about his son's injury, and as soon as he spoke, he was punished severely. Steward Lu's expression was grim. On this occasion today, what the master said, what are you staring at? Drag this little slut in. Qinjingjing said in a sharp voice as she saw him motionless. The Su family is indeed domineering. Su Wanqiu frowned slightly when she heard the voice. What does this dog man mean? Everyone followed the sound and saw Mu Zhichao sitting idle on a nearby chair. I occasionally tasted the red wine in front of the table, and then showed a look of disgust. Who are you? Su Ziqi frowned slightly. He knew all the nobles in Yuncheng and didn't remember any young people from that family who looked like this. Since I don't know each other, it means I don't have much background. Since he stands out, he will cater to this young man. Steward Lu, you're such a fool. What kind of person is suitable for our Su family's dinner? Someone, throw him out for me. Upon hearing these words, Steward Lu's face suddenly changed. He quickly walked over to Su Ziqi, wanting to explain the matter to him. Others are fine, this master is not someone they can offend. Is everything okay? Mu Zhichao walked toward Su Wanqiu, with a gentle smile on her face, and took out a tube of medicine from her pocket. He saw it very clearly, Su Wanqiu didn't hesitate at all just now. She decisively removed Su Chen's hand, but the person's subconscious resistance also left several bloodstains on her hand. Although not deep, she is still a girl, and her hands are also quite important. We're not so familiar. Su Wanqiu gave him a white glance, but she didn't refuse his kindness. Although she is not familiar with Mu Zhichao, their relationship is complex. If we count them all, besides Anye, only Mu Zhichao can barely make her believe in the Su family at present. Believe it. Thinking of this, Su Wanqiu clenched her jade hand tightly. She will never trust any man again in her life. At this moment, Su Ziki also looked embarrassed. Just now, Manager Lu secretly told him the identity of Mu Zhichao. The largest lawyer in Beijing, young and talented. In terms of wealth, he is indeed not as good as the Su family, but no one dares to easily offend such a gold medal lawyer. But just now he said something. If he doesn't do something, wouldn't it be embarrassing? Just as the atmosphere began to solidify, a voice came. Zhichao, bid farewell to the capital, long time no see. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. His maintenance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. His maintenance. The person who came was Anye, who walked gracefully like a noble young master at a dinner party. The Li family holds a very high position in Yuncheng, and coupled with the connection between the first generation of the Li family and the capital, there have been countless storms, but the Li family stands firm in Yuncheng. So the Li family firmly holds the reputation of being the top wealthy family in Yuncheng. Although Anye is currently teaching under the name of a university, he also has a huge influence in the Li family. Among the younger generation in Yuncheng, Anye possesses a unique talent. Seeing Anye approaching, Su Wanqiu's red lips slightly pouted. It's nothing else, it's just a physical habit of acting coquettish in front of him. Mu Zhichao glanced at her and shook her head helplessly as she revealed her girlish demeanor. How dark this girl is, he knows it all. It's my honor to make Mr. Li remember. Mu Zhichao reached out and gently shook his hand with him. The two men who had reached the pinnacle of their careers met, which was already eye-catching. Moreover, the two of them have extremely high looks. Anye is a well-known suit thug from far and wide, with a combination of artistic and cool styles, paired with customized suits, and a killing rhythm for women of all ages. Mu Zhichao has a different flavor. Although she has achieved success in her career, her face always has an inexplicable sense of youthfulness, especially attracting some wealthy women. Su Wanqiu glanced and saw at least a dozen wealthy women secretly leaving the crowd to get their makeup done. She smiled lightly and glanced at Mu Zhichao, who seemed to have a feeling as he turned around and blinked at her. Aren't you not fond of this young master? Coincidentally, there are many people who are interested in this young master, and you are not lacking. Seeing the limelight being attracted by Mu Zhichao, Su Ziki's face on the side looked ugly. Su Chen has been carried away and sent for treatment by a family doctor. Originally, Su Ziki wanted to use this dinner to build up some connections for Su Chen. There is news abroad that the old man will be back soon. Before that, Su Ziki had intended to make Su Chen stand out so that the old man could change his view of him. But all of this was destroyed by Su Wanqiu. Lawyer Mu needs a good rest, I'll take care of some family matters. Su Ziki gritted his scalp and pushed forward, causing Mu Zhichao to flash a hint of dissatisfaction upon hearing the words. Is this old man blind? Rebel girl. Don't bring it down yet. Su Ziki no longer plays the role of a father-daughter relationship, he has already figured out how to treat Su Wanqiu. Someone took her to the countryside and immediately went to the Li family these days to arrange her wedding ahead of schedule. If it could end before the old man returns to his home country, this Su family would belong to both of them. Thinking of this, Su Ziki's gaze became even colder and sharper. Oh. However, the plot he had anticipated did not happen. Su Wanqiu only gave him a faint glance, then picked up his tall cup and walked towards Mu Zhichao. Mr. Mu, would you like to have a drink of noodles? Mu Zhichao was also taken aback, and then he saw the faint threat in the girl's eyes. Don't forget, you still have a handle in my hands. After living for so many years, Mu Zhichao was still threatened by a woman like this. Of course, if a beautiful woman invites me, I will naturally accompany her. Mu Zhichao didn't expose her, but instead turned to her and said, I don't enjoy drinking here either. Why don't you accompany me to another place for a drink? Whatever. Su Wanqiu is too lazy to care about this narrow-minded man. As long as he can leave here, it doesn't matter to anyone. Wanqiu, do you know each other? Anye frowned slightly. How could Su Wanqiu know Mu Zhichao? Thinking of the background of Mu Zhichao, he couldn't help but worry about the safety of Su Wanqiu. Before Su Wanqiu could speak, he heard the sound of Su Ziki gritting his teeth on the side. Su Wanqiu. You don't want face, our Su family still wants face. Don't forget, you are a person who is engaged. Everyone present also heard about this matter, and Su Wanqiu and Li Qiming have a marriage engagement. Mu Zhichao was slightly taken aback, then took a deep look at her. He remembered the words she said that night, this woman has a heart that's ruthless enough. Oh. This is the third time Su Wanqiu has ignored Su Ziki tonight, whether it was intentional or something. She reached out and took Mu Zhichao's arm, smiling brightly. Mr. Mu, it's too noisy here. How about we go out and have a drink? This woman. Mu Zhichao rolled his eyes and knew he wouldn't stand out. However, he was very curious. Seeing Su Wanqiu's intention, it was obvious that he had no interest in Li Qiming. With her relationship with Anye, it shouldn't be difficult to cancel the engagement. Why is it so difficult for oneself? Willing to accompany. Mu Zhichao smiled and accidentally glanced at Anye. I saw his face as calm as water, and he didn't care at all about her impolite behavior. This makes Mu Zhichao unable to understand. Anye's behavior today is somewhat abnormal. Su Wanqiu, I'll only give you 3 seconds. If you come with me honestly, I can pretend nothing happened. Su Ziki's face was as cold as frost, and he was really angry today. Su Wanqiu didn't even want to give him a single one this time, so he grabbed Mu Zhichao and walked towards the door. Su Ziki is furious, he must have someone teach Su Wanqiu a good lesson. However, before he could move, Anye, who had been silent all along, finally spoke up. Mr. Su, is this what you promised me? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Strong Kiss. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Strong Kiss, Not Waiting for Your Third Uncle. In the car, Mu Zhichao glanced at the girl. You talk a lot. Su Wanqiu frowned slightly, gave him a white look, and held her chest in a defensive posture. Put me on the roadside, I will go back by myself. It's not safe for girls to walk alone at night. Who dares to rob me? Su Wanqiu narrowed her eyes slightly, and Mu Zhichao unbuttoned her collar and chuckled lightly. You're really not cute enough. At least I helped you today, and you're just doing this to me. Have you forgotten who stopped me outside the restroom? Are you going to dig up old accounts? Mu Zhichao's smile instantly narrowed, with a hint of coldness in his eyes. Su Wanqiu squinted her eyes and looked at him for a moment, then seemed to think of something and reached out to touch his chest. The car tilted in an instant. What are you doing? Mu Zhichao popped out word by word, his face turning pale with iron. Do you know what reserved is for this woman? The feel is good. Su Wanqiu changed her smiling face and was not at all embarrassed by being treated as a female hooligan. Instead, she was generous and said, why is a man so stingy? I am the one who is even more at a loss. Are you at a disadvantage? Yeah, just think about me, a yellow flower girl, sleeping with you, this dog man. I'll be even more at a disadvantage if I break the sky, okay? Dog man. Mu Zhichao almost spurted out a mouthful of old blood, and he doubted whether the creature in front of him was actually a woman. Hello. I have a name. Su Wanqiu gave him a white glance. If it weren't for this man helping her, she would have taken action long ago. Just give him a few shots and the whole world will be quiet. What exactly do you want to do? Mu Zhichao remained silent for a long time and slowly uttered a sentence. He really doesn't understand what Su Wanqiu wants. Don't think that with the lingering love from the night before yesterday, she just wants to threaten herself to do something. He hates being threatened and designed the most in his life. If it weren't for verifying that she did sneak in unexpectedly that night, I'm afraid Su Wanqiu would have been taken away and solved long ago. I'm not doing anything, I just want to get married. Su Wanqiu leaned back in her seat, her voice lazy, but there was a hint of seduction in Mu Zhichao's voice. This woman, don't you know how seductive she is? Is that all? Mu Zhichao restrained his mind and seemed dissatisfied with the answer. Does that mean he's just someone he's just looking for casually? When did he use Zhichao as a substitute? Otherwise. Do you think this king would cry and demand that you marry me? Su Wanqiu sneered. But with her long silence, she turned around and saw the man's constantly changing face. Hello. I can marry you. But. Mu Zhichao's eyes flashed with a hint of confusion, and he didn't know why he had compromised with this woman so much. But not now, you need to give me a few months' time. Are you sick? Su Wanqiu widened her lips and uttered these 4 words for a long time. You're sick. Which woman from that family broke into a man's room in the middle of the night? I warn you. This is just what I said. You are just a randomly selected person by me. Let's stop here and don't get involved again in the future. I won't give you any title. Su Wanqiu's face turned cold. Couldn't it be that modern men have such strict male virtues? If I ruin his innocence, then there will be no one to marry him. The car stopped in an instant, and Su Wanqiu was first taken aback, then felt a masculine aura rushing towards her. Then, she was forcibly kissed. Yes, this is her first time being forcibly kissed. Although she used to have a lot of facial expressions, she was the main one. When did she get forcibly kissed by a man? Thinking of this, a hint of coldness flashed in her eyes and she bit him hard. Are you a dog? Mu Zhichao sat up immediately after experiencing pain and looked in the rearview mirror to find that her lips were bitten and bleeding. But before he could speak, he felt a hint of coldness in his neck. A pair of scallion white jade hands had already wrapped around his neck, making it difficult to breathe faintly. Dog man, how dare you kiss my king forcefully? Do you want to die? Su Wanqiu had a cold and playful expression, with a hint of killing intent in her voice. If it had been in a previous life, Mu Zhichao's hands would have been chopped off by the green plum. In the narrow space, Su Wanqiu's attention was drawn to her own hands, without realizing where the man's hands were. By the time she realized it, her hand had already been knocked to the side, and the man's hand was pressing down on the door of her life, unable to exert any strength. You let go of me. Su Wanqiu blushed and resisted. If it weren't for her fragile body, how could she have been so humiliated by Mu Zhichao? A girl who is too violent, no one likes her. Mu Zhichao raised her eyebrows, and a faint pain came from her neck. This girl is really heavy-handed and doesn't show any mercy. You take the opportunity to kiss me forcefully. Do I need to keep my hand on you? I don't need any men to like me, no matter what you think. Su Wanqiu gritted her teeth and kept resisting. She hates the feeling of being pressed under her body, especially since she is still a man. Somehow, Mu Zhichao saw this scene with a faint smile on her lips. I have also said that I have never been humiliated by a woman. As they spoke, the distance between the two became closer and closer. You bastard. There is a slight coolness in the jade, which is the cherry blossom. Small theater. Mu Zhichao. Is it easy for me? It's okay to be bullied by a woman, she's amazing. Surprisingly, she. Su Wanqiu. I told you not to call anymore, I'm not familiar with you. Mu Zhichao. Not familiar. No, you just fooled through like this. I need to send you a lawyer's letter. Su Wanqiu. Hee. Anye, who missed a good scene, rushed over with a dark face. Anye. So, what happened to you? Two people. What does it have to do with you? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. If you don't like it, just stay away from her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. If you don't like it, just stay away from her for a long time. Mu Zhichao slowly sat up and looked at the beautiful girl with a rosy face and messy hair, with a hint of unnatural expression on her face. For some reason, as long as he was with her, he lost his previous composure. It seems like she is an addictive poison to him. Didi. The gentle sobs echoed through the narrow workshop, and Mu Zhichao, with a hint of bitterness, looked at the girl with red eyes fixed on him. You're not a human. Su Wanqiu reached out her jade hand and wiped her tears. When has she suffered such losses in 2 generations? Don't say you haven't been forcefully kissed by a man, as long as a man respects her in front of her. Only the man in front of her bullied her time and time again. Even if she behaves strongly, she is still a girl in the end. In her past life, she experienced countless battles of all sizes, and she was also a woman who would hide alone in the phoenix quilt and cry bitterly. No, absolutely not crying in front of this man. Su Wanqiu wiped away her tears, gritting her teeth, her heart filled with a murderous intent towards Mu Zhichao. If it weren't for his current weak body, she would have made him pay the price. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Mu Zhichao's voice was gentle, and he didn't know how he lost his usual demeanor when he saw her. She's just a little girl in her early 20s, she really deserves to die. I will marry you, as long as you give me time. Mu Zhichao realized that she had destroyed the innocence of this girl no matter what. Plus tonight's situation, if he leaves her behind, can he still be considered a person? Who cares? Su Wanqiu gritted her teeth, and now she only wanted to bite the annoying man in front of her. I heard you're not doing well. Mu Zhichao didn't want to get entangled in this matter, he was very puzzled about his reaction today. Is it true that he has a first-time complex? What does it have to do with you? Su Wanqiu replied with her usual coldness. She had a cold personality and had only shown her emotions for a moment when she was extremely angry. Mu Zhichao remained silent for a moment and took out a black iris card. I said I would marry you, but it takes time. Take this card for now and don't let yourself be wronged. Mu Zhichao. Su Wanqiu was furious. What does this mean? Treat her like a woman in the flower world. Mu Zhichao's face flashed with a hint of unease, and he coughed lightly. I heard that the Su family is not good to you. If you need to spend my money in the future, the Su family. If you don't like it, just stop contacting me. I just want to make you live happily. The man's clumsy words also stunned Su Wanqiu. Especially the last sentence inadvertently touched her. It's just a short moment. I don't need your mercy. Also, don't provoke me again in the future. I will handle my own affairs. Su Wanqiu gave a cold smile and then opened the car door to leave. Mu Zhichao sat alone in the car, lost in thought, until the fragrance beside him left, and he finally regained his senses. He seems to have made her angry. Returning to the apartment as a walking corpse, he had never experienced insomnia for the first time. He sat on the balcony daydreaming for a long time, not even knowing why he was doing these things today. Ding ding ding. The ringing of the phone interrupted his thoughts, and he glanced at the caller ID, sorting his emotions. As soon as I answered the phone, I heard an old man's angry curse. Xiaomu, when did you get to know my family? This kind of address is naturally Mr. Su. Obviously, someone told him about the Su family today. Mr. Su had a good fit of anger, and finally, accompanied by a severe cough, he calmed down. For a long time. Anye has already told me, but I didn't expect Wanqiu to be bullied like this by them. Your son-in-law is also considered a man, he has ruined Su Ziqi's face. Mu Zhichao smiled slightly as he saw the message on his phone. After the two of them left, Anye terminated all cooperation with Su Ziqi in front of everyone. Including a project worth up to 10 billion yuan, it was immediately announced by Anye that it would be re-tendered. Just here, Mu Zhichao made a fuss. Anye and Su Wanqiu have a marriage engagement, claiming to be the son-in-law of Mr. Su. It's because he has ulterior motives, Anye, this child has ulterior motives. Hand him over, I can rest assured. Mr. Su's melancholic voice rang out, and Mu Zhichao frowned slightly upon hearing this. Tell me honestly, what's going on between you and Wanqiu? This is the reason why he called, he wants to understand Mu Zhichao's thoughts. If it's just a friend, then Su Wanqiu doesn't need this friend. Behind Mu Zhichao, there are too many implications involved. But if it is Mr. Su, dare not think further, that family will not allow Mu Zhichao to have an affair with other women. At this stage, I just want to ask you one question. What is your intention to help our family? This sentence was so thought-provoking that Mu Zhichao hesitated for a long time without even speaking. Wanqiu, sooner or later you will get married. Marrying the Li family is the best choice. Xiaomu, if you don't like her, just stay away from her and treat me as if I'm begging you, okay? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Bid Billion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Bid Billion. Su Wanqiu didn't sleep well all night, her mind full of Mu Zhichao's annoying face. So much so that the next morning, while rushing to class, I accidentally walked into the wrong classroom. When I finally arrived at the classroom, I found that it was already full of people. As soon as she turned around, she saw Lingjingjin's annoying face. In the past, there has never been a classroom full of people in class, obviously this time it was intentional by Lingjin. Su Wanqiu rolled her eyes and said, if there's no place, she'll leave. Just as she turned her head and was about to leave, she happened to meet Anye, who was tidying up his cufflinks and looking at her with a smile on his face. Wanqiu, where are you going? Anye looked at her with deep meaning, and Su Wanqiu had to grit her head and say, there are no more seats in the classroom. Who said that? Isn't there a seat on the podium? At this moment, I don't know who started the coaxing. Su Wanqiu glanced at Lingjingjin and saw the resentment on his face. There is indeed a space on the podium, and I don't know who specifically moved a table and chair here. That's right, Teacher Li. I think Su Wanqiu just doesn't want to listen to your class. She's like this privately. Lingjingjin deliberately said on the side. Inside and outside, it implies that Su Wanqiu is just a white lotus flower, and on the surface, she is not the same as in private. It's just that they met Anye, and old people don't know the relationship between the two of them. Since someone doesn't have a seat, cancel this class for now and let's talk about the next class. Anye's face remained expressionless, but he could see the mechanism placed in that position on the podium very well. There is glue on the chair and a fixed blood bag. Lingjin really wants Su Wanqiu to embarrass himself in front of everyone, how could he fall for this trap? Hearing Anye speak like this, Lingjin was really a bit flustered. She didn't want Anye to cancel the course, she wished she could watch Anye 24 hours a day. Wanqiu, you can sit here with me. A little boy stood up when he saw the situation. Su Wanqiu thought for a while but didn't remember who he was, so he didn't hesitate. He walked up straight and only replied lightly, thank you. The boy's face turned red suddenly, to the point where he sat in the hallway, feeling dazed all morning. Anye teaches very well, but Su Wanqiu has no desire to learn. She kept scrolling through her phone and couldn't help but sigh when she saw that no one had replied to her posts posted online. She has been really short of money recently, so she posted on the internet that she has authentic paintings of the Qinhuang king. But many people only comment that she is deceiving others, and there are only 5 existing works. How could there be any other works flowing out? As noon approached, she had nothing to do and opened her phone when she suddenly found a comment. Is what the landlord said true? Is there really an authentic work of the Qinhuang king? The news has been half an hour now, and she didn't give any hope. She casually replied. Yes, do you need it? Unexpectedly, the other party immediately replied, and one sentence ignited her hope. Sure, 1 billion pieces. Billion. How long does it take? Just send us the photos of the painting, and once we confirm it to be true, we will immediately pay a 50% deposit. After receiving the painting, we will make up the remaining payment. Is it that simple? The prerequisite is that it must be genuine. Is the authenticity still difficult to handle? I am the king of Qinhuang, how could I sell you as a fake? The thought of receiving 500 million yuan in the blink of an eye made Su Wanqiu feel extremely happy. When she received the money, she began to take care of her body. As long as your body recovers, seek revenge on Mu Zhichao as soon as possible. Humph, dare to bully this king, wait for death. The beam of light shot down from the window, illuminating her pretty face and slender eyelashes, creating an arc of light. As soon as she put down her phone, she looked up and saw Anye standing in front of her. That gaze seemed to have been on for a long time. Today's class ends here. Anye's face remained gentle, but there was a deep meaning in his eyes. Ling Zhinzhin watched this scene and her resentment instantly rose several levels in her heart. She must make Su Wanqiu fall into disrepute. Definitely. Su, please keep it for a while. Su Wanqiu was packing up when she heard Anye's gentle voice. She glanced at the crowded girl next to Teacher Li and sighed. So I sat in my seat and played with my phone, flipping through the photo album with my nimble fingers. Accidentally seeing an old photo of Anye, a picture of him wearing ancient costumes suddenly flashed through my mind. Jingqiu doesn't know what to draw, so let's draw an ancient-style picture of a beautiful man. She just focused too much on the screen on her phone and didn't notice that the person beside her had already left. Anye walked softly and looked at the girl who was in a daze. He has many questions in his heart that he wants to ask her, such as her recent changes. If she can be strong, he is actually happy. He was just a little scared, afraid that Wan would become a stranger to him. Wan. Who is your armband? A man flashed through Su Wanqiu's mind, and before his death, he had also called out to him so gently. But when she regained her senses, she saw Anye looking at her face with a serious expression. You're not Wan. Who the hell are you? As he spoke, his hand curled slightly and he clenched his fist. End of this chapter.